All right, it is about 12 o'clock, so we'll get started with our Beyond the Headlines special segment. My name is Jay Rodriguez. I'm the local editor of the Post and Courier's Myrtle Beach office. I've spent about 11 of the past 15 years covering the Grand Strand from all kinds of aspects. I've been to plenty of Harley weeks, as well as Black Bike Week, and that's going to be the topic of this week's Beyond the Headlines. I have with me Alex Brezee, who covers local government. Alex, if you could tell our viewers a bit about what you've covered so far and your current beat.
Hi, yeah, like Jay said, my name is Alex. I'm a relatively newish reporter to the area. I've been here for about 3 months. I cover local government, specifically Horry County government, and then the other municipalities in the area, including the city of Myrtle Beach and the city of Conway. And then along with that, I occasionally do some coverage of like public safety and then other events going on in the area, which kind of leads us to today's event, which is Bike Week kind of coverage and pretty much bike month. So I kind of just cover the major things happening throughout the county.
Absolutely. And just a reminder to the folks who are watching, this is being recorded. So if you aren't sure of maybe something we said or want to kind of revisit, this is going to be recorded, so you will be able to go back and play it. We also encourage you to ask questions. Use the chat box at the lower part of your screen, and we'll get to as many questions as we can pertaining to Bike Week. We Earlier this month we had Harley Week, and Alex, you had a chance to be out there for your very first Harley Week. What were you expecting, and what was your first impression?
I think it was pretty much what I expected. I had lots of people kind of, give me the lowdown on what to expect and, be prepared for, and kind of just, as a young journalist kind of heading out to this very different world. Since I didn't grow up kind of in this area, I didn't go to a lot of, Harley related events. So, it was, it honestly, it seems like a really interesting community. People seem really passionate about it. It was amazing how many people came from all over the country. I met some people that, knew where I went to school, because I'm from Florida originally, but I went to school out west in Idaho. It's a very long story. If you want to know why, you can find me on somewhere. But I met some people that knew where I went to school and had been all over the country. So I think that was really interesting how many people kind of come from all over the world to come to these these rallies, and they're just really passionate about what they do and their hobbies. And I think that it was a really interesting community. So it was really interesting to cover Harley Week, and I'm really excited, obviously, to cover Black Bike Week because of all the historical context with it, along with the community that it builds.
So did Harley Week go off without a hitch? I mean, were there some things that our community faced during Harley Week?
Yeah, I would say, I know that some people kind of are concerned, with, they think that these large events might bring more crime to the area. And while there was a larger amount of there were some arrests, and there were some, we had, there was a few outliers. I think the biggest thing that happened was speeding tickets were given out. I think Georgetown County gave out almost 600 tickets, 560 or something like that. But most of them were for speeding and traffic violations. There was one major kind of fight at Suck Bang Blow, which is a local bar, technically in Horry County, but very close to the Georgetown, kind of the county line. There was a fight that happened there, and a man was arrested. And then there was one man from the Midwest who sadly did die, who was riding his motorcycle and hit a car. And he wasn't wearing a helmet, and he passed away. So there definitely was some things that happened, but there wasn't, high levels of non-violent activities I think that there's made out to be. So
Sure. You mentioned Suck Bang Blow, and I know last summer they kind of got in some trouble with violating the governor's order. Back in July, they had a Bone Thugs and Harmony concert. Is there a possibility that anyone can get in trouble this time around, I guess, for a similar violation?
There are other violations I'm sure that people could break, but in regards to COVID, there are not any more restrictions. The governor has made it pretty clear that he wants to move past COVID. He's asked counties to remove their mask mandates. He wants schools to be back in person and children not to wear masks there. And on top of that, he, back, I believe in March, he kind of removed executive orders that would restrict like large gatherings. So really all clubs or, bars and that kind of thing should have no problem. The only issue they could run into is if they don't get special event permits from the county. That has nothing to do with the governor. It has to do with county and local government. So, all these bars that are hosting events will need to get special events permits from either Horry or Georgetown County, depending on where they are. Depending for the size of events they have, how many people come into their bars, and the kind of things they choose to do, if they have activities or if they want to have concerts, those kind of things. They will have to get those permits, and they could get into violation issues if they don't get those permits. But COVID wise, there really isn't many restrictions at this point for what people can and can't do. So.
Sure. This year, and I don't know, maybe because I'm a little more cognizant of it, but some of the concerts that I saw at those venues during Harley Week, you really couldn't find too many masked people. Is it a fair assessment that there weren't that many people wearing masks?
Yeah. When I attended Harley Week, I would say that I saw maybe 4 people wear masks out of a couple thousand. For pretty much in all the places I went, along Polly's and the Murrells Inlet, and then also kind of in some of the bars, closer to, Horry County and the Sockasty area. There really wasn't any masks in sight. There was an occasional group with a mask or two on, but most people were not wearing masks. And I did ask some folks, if they were still concerned about COVID. And some people, said that they'd been vaccinated, that they're ready to move on. And a lot of people felt that, they weren't too serious, worried about COVID. They didn't seem to take it too seriously, even though obviously we have data that proves otherwise. And has proven that COVID obviously has been a major threat. But there is a lot of people in this area that are getting vaccinated. So it's a balancing act. I would say that the majority of people did not wear masks. Whether or not they've been vaccinated is not something that I would know, though. But
Sure. And that is, I cover tourism as part of the business beat that I cover as well. And that seems to be what a lot of officials are kind of banking on, is people being vaccinated, minding their 6 feet distance. People are trying to avoid each other, at least the folks that I have seen. So I certainly can see people are kind of backing off on the masks. You will notice it a little bit here and there, but it's not as I guess strong as I would have thought.
Yeah, and I would say the biggest thing is also, the CDC has said that, people, if they have been vaccinated, can pretty much don't have to wear masks anymore. Obviously, private businesses can do whatever they want at this point, because there are no, rules within Myrtle Beach or Horry County to wear masks. So if private businesses want to ask people to wear a mask, that's their right to do so. But it's not up to, the local government is not making any kind of decisions for that anymore.
Sure. As I said earlier, if you guys have questions, be sure to send those questions in. We do have a couple of questions that have come in already, so we'll be addressing those shortly. Alex, can you talk a bit about some of the differences between Harley Week and Black Bike Week? And I say Black Bike Week, I mean Memorial Day weekend, what we're going to be facing. It's commonly known as Black Bike Week. There's still some confusion. I guess let me back up. There's still some confusion that Black Bike Week is canceled. Mm-hmm. Can you clear that up, I guess, for our viewers?
Yeah, so Black Bike Week typically happens in Atlantic Beach, which is its own town and municipality. And since it happens within that town can decide whether or not they want it to happen. It doesn't happen in unincorporated Horry County. It's not happening in Myrtle Beach. It's happening in Atlantic Beach, and they have their own government. And Atlantic Beach has, when I talked to them about a month and a half ago, they were like, we're still very worried about COVID, and they didn't want the event to happen. The event brings a lot of people to the area, and they were very concerned about COVID and kind of the super spreader event that could happen. Also, back about a month and a half ago, we weren't nearly as much in the clear as we have become. So probably at this point it's a little too late. But they were very concerned, and they did not want Black Bike Week to happen, so they've canceled it. They're not planning to give out any event permits to allow it to happen. But that doesn't mean people can't show up and have their own unofficial events. It's still a tourist town. People can still come to Atlantic Beach and do tourist related activities. They just can't hold any kind of like event. So, what that means is a little unclear. And that's what we're going to find out this weekend, most likely. We'll see how many people actually show up for more of a Black Bike Week. And the other issue that you run into is that Black Bike Week happens during Memorial Day weekend. So you have a whole bunch of people coming for very different reasons. People are coming from all over the country to just come to be tourists, to vacation, spring break, or not spring break, but, Memorial Day break, whatever, end of school year. So it's just going to be a large mass of people. So that's kind of like what's kind of going on. We haven't really been able to confirm with people that host Black Bike Week whether or not they're planning to have like an unofficial event. We don't know if that might not be something we might be being able to confirm, because obviously people aren't going to want to get in trouble for those kind of things. So it's kind of just going to have to be a see what happens kind of event. So
Sure. Can you talk a bit about some of the differences between Harley Week and Black Bike Week? I saw out on the Murrells Inlet area, they do have the orange barriers to kind of help control traffic. We have something different here in Myrtle Beach. By the way, folks, we are broadcasting live from Myrtle Beach. So we actually have a presence here in the Myrtle Beach community. We're not, there's a common misconception that we're in Charleston reporting on Myrtle Beach. We do have and have had a pretty solid presence in the Myrtle Beach market for almost a year now. So, Alex, if you could talk a bit about some of the differences between Harley Week and Black Bike Week.
Yeah. So first of all, obviously the weekends that they happen on is kind of the first thing. But usually Harley Week does bring out a more predominantly white crowd, whereas Black Bike Week brings out a predominantly Black crowd. And a lot of that has to do with just the history of Myrtle Beach in this area, and kind of the history of people being brought over. I'm not overly familiar with all the history of it, as I'm not from this area. But pretty much the way that I look at Black Bike Week is it's kind of an event that people wanted to bring back and reclaim after kind of, years of persecution and slavery and kind of different things that might have separated the events. So Black Bike Week is kind of this week where people want to take back something that might not have been positive in the first place, and now they're making it their own. But the other issues that you run into is there's due to the fact that Black Bike Week happens, so they're happening in different areas. So the policing of it and the way that they're kind of given restrictions happens differently. And that's because different municipalities are in charge of each event. So Harley Week tends to happen, although it's known as Myrtle Beach Bike Week and all these things, it actually doesn't happen in Myrtle Beach. It happens in unincorporated Horry County or unincorporated Georgetown. And there's not a direct municipality kind of having those events. And a lot of those things happen at bars. So they're private businesses hosting events. So they're, that's a little bit easier to have those kind of things. Whereas Black Bike Week tends to happen in the city of Atlantic Beach, and there tends to be more, we've seen over the years, there's been more policing. During Black Bike Week, they have what's commonly known as the Loop, which is a 23-mile loop that kind of directs traffic that sometimes is instructed and kind of placed during Black Bike Week. It hasn't happened in the last few years, but also Black Bike Week hasn't happened in the last few years. So, there's kind of that possible correlation. And, there's some other things that kind of happened. And it is interesting because advocates for Black Bike Week, they do feel that maybe that they're overly policed. And there have been lawsuits in the past about the loop, particularly with the NAACP in this area, which is, for those that don't know, is the National Association of Colored People. So there is kind of this different kind of approach to the two events. And it's hard to nail down exactly why those things happen, as they're not happening in the exact same area. So they are hard to compare.
Sure. And something came out Monday that pertains to golf carts.
Mhm.
Can you talk a bit about the prohibition, I guess, of golf carts on Ocean Boulevard?
Yeah, so on Monday, the city of Myrtle Beach, where a lot of these festivities will probably happen, whether they happen officially or unofficially, just because Myrtle Beach is kind of the hub for tourism. That's where all the hotels and all those things are. Along Ocean Boulevard, which is kind of the main road to go to the beach and to be on the beach and all the hotels, they have decided that golf carts are not allowed. And also, what most people might not know is that golf carts are actually not also allowed on like Kings Highway and other places like that. So it kind of means that it's going to be really hard to use a golf cart unless you're in more of a private area this weekend. And they did that with an executive order. So pretty much the government has just decided, hey, we don't want this, due to safety reasons. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that Ocean Boulevard's traffic is changing this weekend. So for those that don't know, Ocean Boulevard will be turned into a one-way this weekend. So the flow of traffic, I believe, will only be going, and I could be wrong, so please go read the article. It could be going south, is only going southbound, and then the northbound lane will be completely closed and be used for emergency vehicles, along with certain avenues that will also be closed. So it'd be kind of hard to have people going one way, golf carts, emergency vehicles, and closed avenues all happening in one place. So that's, most likely why that kind of ordinance was, or that executive order was done, because, people, it's just going to be, it's a little too much for one road. So yeah, pretty much golf carts, if you're planning on getting a golf cart this weekend, you might want to rethink it. You might want to look to see where you're staying and decide if that's really the best option for you, as you're not going to be able to drive them on Ocean Boulevard like you normally can. So.
Sure. And that's when they first instituted the 23-mile loop, the roads to Ocean Boulevard were closed, and so they had those barriers up. And so when you were talking earlier about the influx of people, we have people coming from, like you said, celebrating the end of the school year, the start of summer, Memorial Day weekend. Then we have Black Bike Week, and then we had this 23-mile loop, and I think it shocked people. It surprised people who were staying on Ocean Boulevard. I was there. I felt bad for for the delivery people. People who were delivering pizzas or whatever it may be had to park along one of the side streets, if you will, and walk down that side street, get through the barrier, go across Ocean Boulevard, and then up to the hotel room, all for a nominal tip. So yeah, it was definitely inconvenient. That loop, that's not going to be instituted, right? You said this year.
No, it's not. It does say on the City of Myrtle Beach's page that I think they might have it on like standby if things get really crazy. But at this moment, they don't plan to institute it. And they didn't do it. I believe they didn't also do it last year, due to COVID, and there wasn't as much going on over Memorial Day weekend. So
Sure. Okay, as I stated earlier, please send us questions. If you guys have questions, we certainly would like to address them. Alex, for you, Marcy asked, how do the civic leaders balance the needs of the citizens and those of an outside group coming in and taking over the community? So how is that balanced, if you will?
well, I would say, obviously we live in a tourist area. You're going to have to expect that during, these seasons, things are just going to get busier. It's kind of a choice you made by living in this area. And city officials, of course, are doing everything they can to make sure people are aware to be safe on the roads, as there will be more people on the roads, more motorcycles on the roads. And, they're asking people to drive more carefully, plan ahead when you're like, you need to go somewhere at a certain time, all those kinds of things. But also, I guess the downside, if you're frustrated with all these people being here, you need to remember that this is kind of how the local economy works here. And without all these people coming, it would be very hard for this, for Myrtle Beach and for Horry County to have infrastructure and all the things that we need to have to live here, because the money from tourism really drives the economy. So every time you get annoyed with someone, I guess you could think about how, well, they're helping build for, your roads or the fire department or whatever. And city officials, they're of course aware and they want you to be safe, but also, they do, most city leaders are excited and want these people to come here because, well, it's vital to the economy. They don't want to see these streets empty over Memorial Day weekend. But of course, there is additional police presence happening. So the city of Myrtle Beach, for those that don't know, Myrtle Beach has their own police department aside from the county, as some of the, a lot of the different areas do. They've asked the help of other departments, and they're going to have about 300 additional police officers here this weekend, to make people feel safe, to have the influx of kind of the amount of people that are coming. That's why they're closing roads and making these traffic directions and those kind of things, just to kind of help balance the mass amount of people that are coming. But yeah, if you're an introvert and you don't want to be around all these people, maybe go get your groceries today, stay home, watch a long movie, whatever you need.
Very true. Very true. It's we always kind of joke about how going to get groceries would sometimes take 15 minutes in the off season, and then as April and May and June start coming, what was 15 minutes is now a half hour, 45 minutes. And so you're right. We do have to take for as much of a headache as some of these bigger events may be. We do have to take it with a grain of salt because they do support our infrastructure, the penny sales tax that helps build these roads.
Mm-hmm.
They help in a number of ways. It's very true. We do have a pretty interesting question here from Lake Wiley Public Library. I think it's someone that's using a public access there. Have the bikers been glad that you're covering this story? So often, we get caught up in the assignment. Sometimes we'll sit here and we'll talk. Okay, you know what? Hey, Alex, can you shoot out to cover Harley Week? And then we don't necessarily say, but wait, do they want to be covered? Because it doesn't necessarily fit the equation. This is an event that's impacting a lot of people in our area. So I'm interested in that question. How were the bikers when you approached them to start talking about the event and start talking about, hey, why aren't you wearing a mask? Do you feel safe? That type of thing.
Yeah. For the most part, I think most people were pretty receptive. I found that people who, like, when I talked to owners of like the Rat Hole, which is a local biker bar, they were really great. They talked to me for like 20 minutes, gave me all this information, were really kind because they're a business owner and they know that having their business talked about is a good thing. And they're going to be personable. They own a business. It's their job. They're serving drinks. They're helping set things up. They're personal people. And then, some people were like happy to talk to me. And some people, were like, please go away. Or I'd have a conversation with them and I'd be like, oh, could I get your name? And they'd be like, absolutely not. And I'd be like, okay, got it. So, it was a challenge. It's sometimes, I wouldn't say it's the most receptive crowd towards journalists and wanting to be covered. They might have kind of like look at us negatively. I'm not really sure where that stigma comes from, but it was most people were, nobody was like rude to me, but some people just were like, just ignored me or, just said no. And that's completely fine. You do not have to be in the newspaper if you don't want to be. So yeah, most people, when I asked about COVID precautions, some people were just kind of like, I don't really want to talk to you about that. And some people were really happy to talk to me about it, whether or not they believed, they were very concerned about COVID or not. So it just kind of depended. It was kind of you just kind of have to go up to a person and be like, hi, and then see what you get.
Sure, sure. We have a question here from Deborah. Deborah asks, and she has several questions, but is the upcoming biker event dangerous? And if so, typically how many people are arrested? I take it that's kind of hard to gauge. I mean, I'm interested in hearing your answer.
I don't know that I would use the word dangerous. I would just say that, when there's more people, there's tends to be more crime. Just if you look at like major cities, you have more crime in major cities versus small towns. That's just because more people. It doesn't necessarily mean that one is unsafer than the other. It just the rate of it happening can happen more. I would say that from what we know, it's probably more dangerous to be like on the road and driving, as there is more speeding and kind of traffic violations than it is just to walk down the street. I don't think that like violent crimes is what people should really be concerned about. Of course, be precautious and do whatever you need to do to make yourself feel safe. But I don't think people should be worried about like, guns or anything like that, like to that degree. I do think, being really safe on the road, I would really encourage that, because we did see just in Georgetown County, about like 500 tickets be given out over like the week of Harley week. And we didn't get the data from Ori immediately, so I'm not sure on that. It probably was higher in Georgetown, as a lot of the bars are kind of closer to the Georgetown County line for Harley week, but I'm sure that Myrtle Beach will see the higher amount of traffic this weekend. So I would really just encourage people to be like safe on the road. If you're planning to go out and drink and all those kind of things, take an Uber, like walk, whatever you need to do to make yourself feel safe. Be really cautious, I would say, more on the road than anything else. I don't think that like violent crime is really a concern. I think there was about 9 people arrested, and I'm not sure what they were all arrested for. It could have just been something. It doesn't necessarily mean they were arrested for violent crimes. And we only know about one fight that broke out, and then the one death was a traffic accident. So, take that as you will. Of course, do whatever you need to do to feel safe, but I would say driving should be your major concern.
Sure. I've seen both ends of Black Bike Week. I've been down on Ocean Boulevard when the loop was intact, and even when it wasn't intact. The celebration of music. I mean, the vibe is very positive, and I know that there are some bad apples, because I've been to the other side. I've also been there when someone was arrested for shooting another person at one of the local hotels. I mean, I was physically there. I was about 25 feet away from the guy being arrested, and so I've seen both ends, and like you said, the movement of traffic. It seems like there can sometimes be a turf war. Unfortunately, gangs can sometimes be associated with Black Bike Week. Rival gangs tend to, I guess, be at the core of past crimes, and so there is that possibility of crime. But like you said, I mean, the vast majority of people are there to not only celebrate, but show off. They've got just an amazing amount of money, and much like Harley Week, an amazing amount of money spent on bikes, and with Black Bike Week. They spend it on cars as well. Things are really decorated. It's quite an amazing sight. So I've seen both ends, but I think that was a good answer, you know, because it's people do need to be a little more aware of you know, traffic patterns and the added traffic in this area. Uh, so we are at 12:30. We are going to run a little bit late, but we do um, have a couple of questions here and a couple topics that I just want to make sure that we get to. If you do have to leave us, this is being recorded, so you could always play this back at a later date or at your earliest convenience. Deborah had also asked why or how is Charleston involved in reporting on Myrtle Beach events, and I kind of hinted at it earlier, but um, why is the Post and Courier covering Black Bike Week and other events here in Myrtle Beach?
Well, I guess for those that you don't know, the Post and Courier has kind of expanded to all different parts of the state. So it's not so much the Post and Courier Charleston that's covering this event; it's the Post and Courier Myrtle Beach. So we're covering it because we're here, and this is our county and our area. I specifically cover Horry County, and I live in Horry County. So we're covering it because we're here. It's not so much Charleston coming down and covering it. I mean, of course, I'm always happy to get help from, you know, my experienced coworkers in Charleston. We have some amazing photographers and reporters and editors up there. We do work with them on stories, but the reason that we're covering this is because we're here now, and we're here to stay, and we're here to kind of report on this community. So yeah, I guess hopefully that answers your question. It really just has to do with the fact that, you know, there's a Myrtle Beach Bureau, and we cover not only Horry County, but also Georgetown County, you know, from everything from government, crime, business, environmental stuff, you know, whatever you can think of. So sports.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and that's it's very true. We've been doing that ever since July of 2020. And we've expanded to other markets. Greenville, we also have a reporter working out of Spartanburg. Number of communities that Post and Courier now covers to really kind of take over the state of South Carolina. Early data is showing that occupancy is hotel occupancy in Horry County is expected to see more than 20% increase compared to the same dates in 2019. We'll be talking to Karen Reardon of the Chamber later on this week to figure out if that's going to be a trend that will carry on through the summer. This weekend looks like beautiful weather. 80s on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Chance of thunderstorms there on Saturday. Alex, I wanted to thank you for your time and sharing your expertise. I know that you're saturated in this topic, and you're going to be out there in the trenches, if you will, taking a look firsthand, experiencing your first Black Bike Week. I also want to thank our viewers for watching Beyond the Headlines. You can support our work by signing up for any of our free newsletters. I encourage you to do so. You can go to postandcourier.com/Myrtle Beach/newsletter sign up or newsletter hyphen sign up. And you'll see the list of newsletters that are written by myself, by Alex, by our colleague Demi Lawrence. So we will deliver the news through the free newsletter. That way you're not having to constantly come back and visit the website. We'll deliver it right to your inbox, and we'll share that that link with you after this presentation. And it's our paid subscribers that truly make our brand of journalism possible. So help us keep our communities informed, and we appreciate your support. So to subscribe to the Post and Courier, which gets you access to the main office in Charleston, our stories in Greenville, Myrtle Beach, Georgetown, all of our properties. you can visit postandcourier.com/myrtle-beach/subscribe. So on behalf of Alex Brezee and myself, Jay Rodriguez, I wanted to thank you guys very much for your time. And be sure to sign up for those free newsletters and keep reading the Post and Courier. Thank you.
Post and Courier has always been not only the biggest newspaper in the state of South Carolina, but the best newspaper in South Carolina. So for it to come to the Myrtle Beach market is an amazing benefit for those in Myrtle Beach, for those in Georgetown. The quality of journalism that they're bringing to these markets is top-notch. Local journalism is important. It's not often that a community truly gets a chance to experience quality local journalism. Certainly people will get their money's worth when they subscribe to the Post and Courier.